So today is a confluence of days. Over the years, different cultures, different countries have spoken to this day in the church calendar. And for one thing, it's all about light and revelation. So some of the different ways that are manifest these days and customs that are observed are, first, it's Groundhog Day. And if you don't know where Groundhog Day came from, it was from the German peoples, right over here in western Pennsylvania, Punxsutawney. Yes. The whole point, though, of the groundhog thing is the light. If the light is shining bright in the world at this time of the year, then there's going to be a lot more snow, winter. And if there's not a lot of light, then you can't see the shadow. Therefore, it's going to be a short winter. Now, I don't know the physics of that whole thing, but that's where that custom came from. It's about how much light there is, how much sun is allowed to shine onto the earth at this time of year, you see. That's where that came from. It's also a day of bringing candles to the church to be blessed. It's called Candlemas. And that arose from the belief that there was a new light. Jesus was being brought to the temple. He was being brought as the light of the world and revealed once again by Simeon and Anna. So they were the light in the world with a lot of thought and preparation of how the church could manifest that celebration. The people started bringing their candles and blessing the candles that would be used for the rest of the year. So you have, the candles must be by custom and by canon law, at least 51% beeswax, because of course, where does beeswax come from? Any ideas? Bees, okay. It's the wax that they make the honeycombs, right? So you take the honeycomb wax, you make it into candles. There's a fragrant offering to the Lord, that's one thing. And where does the pollen come from the bees to do all of their work making the honeycombs and the honey? Where does all that come from? Pollen from flowers. Okay, and so we talk about Mary being the flower that produced Jesus. Okay, so there you go, the beeswax candles. And they're blessed is when and they're lit, and they therefore shine to the rest of the world as a testament of Jesus in the world. You can do anything, but that's a wonderful custom, and some churches, many churches, observe it still. It's also the purification of Mary. This day for Mary was about Jewish custom of the time, and every woman who bore a child, after the child was flowered from the womb, they waited 7 days, plus another 3 and 30 days for a male child, or double that for a female child. They were brought to the temple, and they were purified. It's hard for me to say this because I don't believe that women are unclean when they have children. They're most blessed and most fruitful, and I believe that God shines much more brightly, but that was their custom of the day, and for whatever it was a big deal in Jesus' life. He was brought with his mother to the temple. If you remember, just 7 days after Jesus was born, we celebrated his naming day. That was 7 days. Just he was brought to be named by his father. This is when his mother brought him, and his father brought him to the temple. It's a big deal. Mary was blessed and recognized, and that's why I put these particular pieces here. I hope you can see them. We have an icon of Mary and Jesus who were presented at the temple. And you can, of course, look at this later on. And I have a candle lit in recognition of the importance of candles, hence Candlemas. And there is a circle of women dancing around the candle, which would be reminiscent of the women of the temple who lived there, as Anna did, praising God, praying at all times, and keeping the lights lit as the spirit in the temple. So we remember all of these customs, Now, all of that comes together by that first reading that we had, that Anya read for us. The children share flesh and blood. Now, many of you can attest to the fact that when something happens and you read a story about it in a newspaper, now say you read about a dog getting hurt, and it's a very sad story, and you can empathize a little bit. But what if your own dog came limping into the house? He had gotten hurt, or she had gotten hurt, and you're sitting there and you're cradling the dog. I don't know if you two have dogs. I'm looking at the boys because they're more likely to. And you feel the pain, right? You're more likely to really, you're more likely to cry, and you run and get a doctor, you want to fix the dog, and you want to make the pain go away, because the dog now has flesh and blood. It's not the same to read a story or to see this happening. This story from Malachi, or from Hebrews, I'm sorry, that's the one Ian read. From Hebrews is about Jesus being flesh and blood, about God coming as flesh and blood, so that we can now understand how God intends us to live, and God understands, we know it, how God intends that human beings with flesh and blood can live together for one another, supporting one another, making community, and changing the world. Changing the world as not a word, but a flesh and blood human being. Because indeed, that's the only thing we've ever really listened to. Indeed. The hard truth of the incarnation is that God is with us. It's so easy to forget the amount of love, the amount of overwhelming capacity that it might take for one to choose to be incarnate, one of us in these bodies. Because it's not easy to navigate this world. So we've celebrated through Christmas. We celebrated a birth of a child into this world. We celebrated through the naming of that child. We celebrated through shepherds coming to visit that particular child. The wisest men of the earth at that time coming to celebrate that child. It's all a story for us. And now what do? Now we have to get to work. Howard Thurman, a great theologian, put it this way. After the prophets have spoken, when the song of the angels is stilled, when the star in the sky is gone, when the kings and princes are home, when shepherds are back with their flock, the work of Christmas begins. To find the lost, to heal the broken, to feed the hungry, to release the prisoner, to rebuild the nations, to bring peace among people, to make music in the heart. This work, this prayer, this is what makes us God's missionaries among the rest of the world. Nothing less. Maybe a lot more. And so we come and we try to realize that we are that flesh and blood that God put here, like Jesus, to do the work that we've been given to do. We are thankful beyond measure. We come to give praise. We come to recognize that this is why we have life. To be here for one another, to be here for God. I thank God. We are moved. We are reminded. We manifest. And we partake at this table of grace, of strength, of courage, of pardon and renewal. Amen.